Story of Lazarus from the Spark Story Bible. 3 of Jesus' good friends included a man named Lazarus and his sisters, Mary and Martha. Jesus was on a long journey when he found out that Lazarus was dying. It took Jesus a few days to travel to see his sick friend. When Jesus arrived, he saw Lazarus' sister, Martha. She had some sad news. "Jesus, Lazarus is dead," cried Martha. "I wish you could have arrived earlier. You might have been able to save him." Jesus tried to comfort her. "Martha, don't be sad. Lazarus will live again." Martha believed what Jesus said. Then Lazarus' other sister, Mary, came to greet Jesus. She wished Jesus had come sooner too. "Jesus, if you had been there, Lazarus might still be alive," she wept. She also believed that Jesus could have healed her brother. Jesus was sad because Lazarus died too. He cried and cried. Jesus, Martha, and Mary went to the tomb where Lazarus was buried. Jesus told some people standing there, "Take the stone away from the tomb." The people were surprised at what Jesus said. Martha reminded Jesus that Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. They had already made his body ready for burial by wrapping it in special clothes. But Jesus knew what he was doing. He insisted that they open the tomb. When the heavy stone was rolled away, Jesus said, "Lazarus, come out!" The people were frightened and amazed when Lazarus came out of the tomb. Since his hands and his feet were all wrapped up in the burial clothes, the people had to help Lazarus. When the people saw Lazarus alive again, they laughed and sang and danced. Many people that day believed Jesus would bring new life to all people.
Good morning, friends. I am coming to you from my new home office, which is sort of a work in progress at my house. This is normally our music room, and I'm working to make it something more beautiful and enjoyable to spend time in. Fun fact about my house, we actually rent from a family named the Mowens, and Mr. and Mrs. Mowen, who built this house, were actually married at Finney Ridge. And this piano that I'm sitting by was gifted to my family by John and Mary Cooley, who are also longtime church members. So I enjoy that. Little reminders that we're all connected to each other. There's reminders of you and of our church community all over my home and yours, I'm sure. So look for those things that bring us joy and connection. Today, I want to talk to you about the gospel reading that's appointed for the 5th Sunday in Lent, March 29th. It's the story of Lazarus being raised from the dead. Hopefully you've had a time to read it already. You can access an online bulletin and home liturgy on our website, and the readings for the day are all printed there. And maybe you already listened to Nicole read the story from the Children's Bible, which I love. But I think this is just the story for us today. It's pretty remarkable, actually, how well it speaks to our situation, because the story is all about grief. And we're dealing with a lot of grief right now. I don't know about you, but even before the restrictions became really extreme, probably 3 weeks ago, when schools were still in session, my kids' activities started to be canceled. So my daughter's musical she's been working on for months, and my second daughter's leadership event she's been planning, their spring youth retreats. Things were just being canceled one by one, and it was like loss after loss for my kids. And so I really started carrying their grief quite a long time ago, and then the grief of the children in our congregation. And then it's just built, right? It's kind of become our collective grief as we've lost our social networks and our work norms. Some of you can't visit your aging parents. We're all holding up loss. We're holding up our grief, and it's not just our own, but we're holding this up for everybody around us, and that's really heavy. And I notice in our gospel story today, the first thing Jesus encounters is Mary and Martha on the road, and he meets them, and they're grieving. They're grieving the impending death of their brother. And the first thing Jesus does is meet them in that and offer a word of hope, a word of promise, and he walks with them. And that's what Jesus does for us too. And that's what we do for each other. But I think it's really important. My favorite part of this story is that when Jesus goes and finds out that Lazarus has died, Jesus weeps. Jesus cries. He grieves himself. Jesus can be a wonderful model of self-care for us. There's so many stories of this. Even in the busiest time of his ministry, Jesus would go away to a mountain to pray. And one time when there was a storm on a boat and everybody was panicking, Jesus took a nap. Talk about self-care. So today we meet Jesus grieving, Jesus crying. And if you only hear one thing from this story today, I want it to be that you have permission to grieve. Let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. Let yourself cry. Name the sorrows, the losses, and grieve them. And allow the people in your life to do the same too. Because I think we often want to just sort of get past that part. We want to fix other people's sadness. And Jesus shows us today that it's so important and holy to grieve, to walk with others in their grief. So let yourself feel all the feelings and give that same grace to the people in your life. Because we have to grieve, and there's a place for that. But we don't stay there, right? The story doesn't end with weeping. The story ends with life. The story ends with Jesus calling Lazarus out of the tomb and Lazarus returning to life. And so even as we grieve, even as we walk this strange road, we also do so with this hope of the resurrection, hope of abundant life always coming again and again and again to us. The hymn that's appointed for today is What Wondrous Love Is This? And it's one of my favorite hymns, but also it's a hymn that I always remember where to find. Because in our ELW hymnal, the red one, the hymn number for What Wondrous Love is 666. And that might make you chuckle, or that might make you cringe, because we all know that 666 is a number that's associated with superstition. It's a number associated with evil, maybe the devil. And so I love that the producers of our hymnal chose What Wondrous Love to go on page 666. I think it's like a defiant thing to do. It says, in the face of death, in the face of evil and sin, we claim wondrous love. We fight back with wondrous love. God does that in the world and in our lives, and we can do it for each other. And I already see this happening. Pastor Brian and I have been calling folks from the church, and without fail, I think everybody I've talked to has said someone else from church has already reached out to them too. You're doing such a good job caring for each other, loving each other, and doing beautiful things, producing beautiful things for the world. And I think that's wondrous love. I think that's wondrous love and wondrous hope in the face of grief, and it's powerful stuff. So keep doing that. we can do this. We can trust that Jesus walks with us and that Jesus calls us to new life. And we can do this together. Know, please, that you are loved, wondrously loved, and that there is hope and joy and beauty each day on this road. God desires abundant life for you and for everyone. So trust in that. And I hope and pray to see you and hug you in person really soon. Take care.